Hey everyone, it's Doug here, Doug Mr. Guy on Board Game Geek, bringing you a quick product spotlight of a game that I particularly enjoy that I wanted to share with you. Now this is purely a multiplayer game, so I'm not going to go into the details of, I'm not going to do a massive playthrough of it, anything like that, because it really is not meant to be played solo. So I'm just going to show you what this game's all about, because I really enjoyed it. I played it for the first time at BGG Con, and it wasn't out yet, but it's out now, and it's designed by Mark Andre, who also did Splendor. And it's just a really fantastic little game along the lines of Splendor. It's called Majesty for the Realm. And I'm going to show you a bit about the setup and just how the game plays. It's so simple and fast. You're going to love it. Anyway, let's get to the table. I'm going to show you how to play it. The first thing I want to talk about is a nice little box that comes in. It's very helpful. I'm going to show you a setup for a two-player game. So you see I'm taking the components out now. I have to do some serious shuffling. I got to get these rank 1, rank 2 cards out. There we go. Okay. And we're going to have I'm going to set up a two-player game. So the first thing that we do in a two-player game is we're going to set up these two decks. So let's get started with that. I'll show you how that works. Now we're going to have these tier 1 cards. There's only going to be so many of these in the deck. All of these will be in play. Basically, the objectives of the game are to be the first person. Well, you want to get the most points, but the game ends when someone has 12 workers in their tableau area, and I'll show you what that looks like. Basically, we're going to have a tableau that looks like a little village, and I'll show you that, and everything else goes with the game. So, one of the things I'll talk about is components. See, the components are very nice. It's a 10 gold piece components. Plastic is like a chip, so it's nice and durable. And we're going to get started and get this set up. So the first thing we do is we set up this deck here. These tier 2 cards are going to all be in play, but we're going to set aside a number of tier 1 cards. And here are the tier 1 cards. Now how this works is we're going to take, in a 2-player game we would take 6 of these. In a 3-player game we would take 14, and in a 4-player game we'd take 26. So we're not going to have many of these cards in there. I'm going to shuffle off camera and I'll get the 6 cards and everything, the deck set up. Okay, so here we have our tier 2 deck. Now all of these cards will always end up in play, but based on the amount of players, which I already discussed I think, so in this case it's going to be 6. So I'm just going to do a quick shuffle, and I'm going to draw out 6 cards, because in a 2-player game, you're going to have 6 of these. 3-player game, you have 14, and in a 4-player game, you have 26. That's so that every character can get exactly 12, or every player can get exactly 12 characters. 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. So this will get set aside. This deck here, we'll just give it another quick little shuffle. We'll go on top of here. These have already been shuffled. We're going to set those aside for now, and we're going to look at our tableau. Alright, well, everybody's tableau is the same. It's basically your realm, and you're going to start with in ascending order. If you look, we're going to look at each card individually, but you have the mill, the brewery, the cottage, the guardhouse, the barracks, and you have the inn, the castle, and the infirmary are the set of cards that you're going to have. And you're going to have them splayed out in front of you just like this, and then above here you're going to see you have this card. This is your workforce, and you're going to start with 5 meeples on this card, and the player that has this card with the knight on it is going to be the first player. So we're going to assume that we're going to be the first player in this. Now let's take a look at what these cards actually do. They each do something slightly different that helps give you bonuses for the other. We'll start by looking at your first card, which is the mill. Now the mill, you see there's a number of features on here we'll look at. First off is this one down here in the corner. It tells you the rank of it right here, by the way, and it also tells you a victory point. Now this one here means it's going to be the first one in your tableau. Number 1. This is the A side. There's also a B side, which is slightly more difficult for those that are experienced playing, and you can mix and match the A and B side if you have experience playing. Now, what happens is you're going to take a card from the tableau. So in this case, let's say you want to play a miller card. You take a miller. They look like this from the tableau, and I'll tell you how to get to those in a moment. And you place it before the mill right here. Now it says per every miller you have in your display, you'll get 2 coins. Coins are victory points. So if there was a second miller, then you would place that. Let's say you already had a miller and it's a new turn, and then you get this double card here. This one can be a brewer or a miller. You can't do both. You have to choose when you play it. So let's say I play it as a miller. Now I'm going to get a total of 4 coins because I had 2 millers now. Play one, but I already had one. Okay, so that's basically how the miller works, and it is that simple. But let's take a look at some of the other ones, like the brewer. Well, we'll take a look at each of them, but let's look at the brewer. So let's say I want to play a brewer down. Okay, I play a brewer. First off, per every brewer I have, I'm going to gain 2 gold, and I'm going to gain a new meeple. Now, I can only have 5 at the end of my turn, so I have to spend them all before my turn ends. But this is one of the ways that you get additional meeples. I guess people like beer, so they come work for you because you're giving them beer. Okay, then it also says down here, and this is minimum of 1, by the way, everybody who has a miller gets 2 coins. Not 2 coins for all their millers, but just 2 coins. So this means all players with a miller gain 2 coins. It's really, really that simple. So that means that the other players benefit from me having a brewer come in to make more beer because he has to use the millers of all the players to succeed at that. Yeah, it's really neat mechanic. I like it, and it works. The only thing I see is you have to announce that you played a brewer. Everyone with a miller gets 2 coins. So that way it helps the other players keep track because it gets a little hard to keep track of. But let's go to the next card. Now remember, this is card number 2. Now these scores here are for majority. So you see the mill had 10 points. This one has 11 right here. So if I have at the end of the game, one of the scoring conditions, the most millers of all the players, I'm going to score this card for 11 points. There's 2 types of scoring, going across and going down. Now I'm also going to score across for every different building I have a person in. I'm going to multiply it by itself, so I'm going to square it. So if I only had a miller and I ended the game with just a miller, then that would be 1 times 1, right? But so if you have 1, 2, 3, that's going to be 6, and then you get up to 36 points. You get the idea. Okay, so I would rather 9 rather. Anyway, that's what happens when you play a brewer. All right, so you play a brewer. He gains 2 coins per and a meeple. Now let's go to the cottage because that one's very interesting. So here's the cottage. Now the cottage you play witches at, right? So if I play a witch at the cottage, I'm going to gain 2 coins for every miller, brewer, and witch that I have. Lots of points, right? But he also says heal top card. Well, that has to do with the card that's last in our tableau, which is called the Infirmary. Because we can't attack, and I'll show you that in a second, but when you're attacked, your characters go to the Infirmary. If you play a witch, they can heal the top card that's in the Infirmary in addition to scoring these points. So the witch at the cottage is actually a really good card. It's not to be underestimated. Again, this is worth 12 points at the end if you have the majority. So let's go on to the guardhouse now. So at the guardhouse, we're going to play guards. Now guards do a number of things, of course. Everything gives you coins. So you're going to gain 2 coins for every guard, soldier, I believe they are, or knight, sorry, guard, knight, and innkeeper that you have. So if I have 1 of each, I'd get 6 coins from that. But also, when I play a guard, I am defending my realm. See where it says defend. Now, and when you get attacked, if you have equal to or the same or greater number of guards than the person attacking you as knights, you take no hits. If you have less guards than the player has knights, even by 1, the first character in your tableau, so probably a miller, is going to go to the infirmary, and so on and so forth for every hit you take by the players. Okay, real simple. So that is the guardhouse. It's that simple. Okay, the barracks works exactly the opposite of the guardhouse. Let's say you play, now remember these dual cards can be played either or, but can't be played for both. But let's say I play this as a knight. I'm going to attack every other player in turn with my knights. For every player that I have more knights than they have guards, I am going to score a hit on them. And for every hit, I'll only score 1 hit on each player. For each player I score a hit on, they're going to put a character in the infirmary. Then the last 3 cards are the, I'm going to block some of the light there so you can, I'll pull this one out so you can see it better, the infirmary. The last 3 cards are the inn. The inn is the innkeeper. I'll just flip this one around because we can use this card for it. The innkeeper will give you plus 4 coins per innkeeper. So you notice these get better as they go, right? Plus 4 coins to the innkeeper, plus everybody that has a brewer, at least 1 brewer, gets 3 coins. Not multiples of 3 coins, just 3 coins. So that's pretty good. And then last, that's the brewer. That's all he does. Or the inn. He just does that. Now the next one is the castle. The castle, you're going to, let me find someone for the castle. Here we go. Here is your lady at the castle, your queen or whatever she is. You notice that the symbol matches the card and the color as well. You play one on there. For every one of these, you're going to get 5 gold and a meeple. It's pretty powerful. There's a couple ways to get meeples. So you see that there's 2 ways to get meeples in your tableau, through the brewery and the castle. But there's other ways to get meeples because you're going to be spending them, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And then lastly, let's talk about the infirmary. The infirmary, now, when you take a hit, let's say for some random reason, I got all the way up to my castle, and I got attacked and didn't have enough to defend, this person would go upside down here at the infirmary, At the end of the game, for every character that is here, it is -1 coin. So I lose victory points from having people in the infirmary. However, again, if I have a witch from the cottage, I play a witch from the cottage, I can take this out of the infirmary and put it back. And that's how the infirmary works. Very, very straightforward. That's the tableau of cards. Now let's go look at the characters that we have and how we actually acquire these cards, because that's the meat of the game. Okay, so starting with the first player, I'm going to pick a character from this tableau. Like for instance, in the beginning, I probably wouldn't want to take a knight. That wouldn't be very helpful to me, because a knight, and we're going to be buying things from this, we're going to lay the cards out this direction, but we're going to buy them in this direction. Okay, so let's say as the first player I decide I want this Miller badly, because the Miller is the first character you get. Now, logically speaking, it's probably better just to take the Innkeeper the first time around, because if I do that, I'll score 4 points for that, or coins for that Innkeeper, but nobody else will have any characters, so they wouldn't get the bonus. Let's say I do that. I can take this guy for free. So I take him and I go, all right, I'm going to place that there, and we're going to play him out. Okay, so I get to take that guy, right? And I'm going to play him and get my points. Now, let's say I didn't want him, though. Let's say, for sake of argument, I really wanted the Miller. Well, I have my meeples. Well, my meeples are currency in this case. So now we know that he's free. So, but if I pass him, I have to put a token on him. And if I pass him, I have to put another meeple on him. And then I get to take the Miller. Okay, so it cost me two meeples to get the Miller. Now, let's say the next player comes around and he takes this Innkeeper. He's also going to get this meeple. Now, at the end of the turn, you can only have 5 meeples, so you need to spend them on stuff, or you get 1 coin for each one you give back to the pool. So at the end of your turn, if you have more meeples than you spent, you gain a coin back. So you still score points off them. They're not totally wasted. Again, going back to the example of the Miller, if I take the Miller, boom, that leaves a gap there, right? So what's going to happen is these 2 cards are going to move forward, and we're going to place a new one out of the deck. So they're going to move like this, right? And we'll place a new one out of the deck. So we're going to go boom, and that would be a witch. Now you can play, now it says basically you slide them toward the front. The front, in this case, the way I'm playing it out is that direction. So they'll go away from the deck. Now in the game, it shows the deck on this side. It doesn't really matter which side you play that on, as long as you make sure that the front is the far end of the deck, right? Okay, so and I tend to like it better going left to right. That's how things work in America, so you tend to go left to right on things. Anyway, so if I take this, so let's say this turn happens, I took this, I replaced that guy, I'm going to play this Miller out, and it's going to score me 2 points. Now, that's it. And so you see how the game works. There's a lot of interaction, a lot of flow between the games. It's so simple and straightforward. Now, if you have 4 players, you're going to get a lot more interaction as far as attacking each other, etc., with the tableau that you're playing. And you're really going to have to keep track of a lot of the point scoring that's going around, flying around the table, because the turns tend to go pretty quickly. So let's just run through somebody's entire turn. I gave you the examples. Now we're going to run through that entire turn with the same scenario of wanting the Miller, just because it makes sense. So on player 1, I want the Miller. So the first thing I'm going to do is pay 2 meeples. I'm going to grab the Miller and play it. Then I'm going to score 2 coins. For the Miller. Now there's lots of 2s, but I'll just grab 2. So I get 2 coins, I score the Miller, and then immediately everything slides down at that point, and a new person comes out. Okay, so there's a total of 6. I accidentally had that witch in there from the last example. So that is really an entire turn. Then it's going to place to then you're going to move to the next player, so on and so forth, until everybody's gone around it, and it's going to go that way until somebody has 12 characters, or rather until everybody has 12 characters in their tableau. And once the last player has hit their 12th character, the game ends, and you score the game. Now, it's really that simple. So once I have 12 people laid out, I'll never have more than 12. Then we're going to end the game. I can never have less than 12 by the end of the game either. But that's how it works. Now, at the end of the game, you're going to score in a couple of different ways. As I said, you're going to score each of these cards based on majority, and it's only 1. Now, it's a friendly tie, so if 2 people are tied, they're going to share those points, right? If they're not tied, then then the majority is going to win the points. So, and they go up in value by 1. So the Mill's 10, Breweries 11, Cottages 12, the Greek Guardhouse is 13, 14, 15, 16. and you score them in that order. So obviously, if you can get the majority of the castle, you're getting the biggest score of points that way. But the real points is in getting the score, because you multiply it by yourself. So if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all 7 of those guys with a card on it, you're going to do 7 times 7. So you're going to do pretty darn well, and you're going to score a bunch of points that way. So typically what I saw is people get around 36 points. So they get, you know, six different locations filled out because someone gets knocked out or something. You know, you have a total of 8, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that's the way it's going to work. So basically, guys, and it's such a simple game. I really can't demonstrate it too much. It's so straightforward. And again, now, if I have meeples left over, if I end up with more than 5 meeples at the end of the turn, I'm going to get to score 1 coin for each one of those meeples, and I have to return them to the general pool. So, and again, it goes around until each of us have 12, and then we're done. And that's really it, guys. Really fantastic little game, though. It's so fun. I mean, we were just shocked at how enjoyable it was. Played a bunch of rounds of it at BGG-Con, and found it to be completely an enjoyable game. I think you will, too. So, guys, thanks so much. I appreciate you checking this out. It's just a short little video. Just wanted to show you this game. I may do more of these. I don't know. I kind of like doing the playthrough. I really want to demonstrate to you guys how this game plays out, but it really doesn't play out well as a single-player game. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching this little bit. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you next time.